You're watching BCTV. We're all about Branford. You're watching BCTV, Branford Government Television, a service of Branford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the town of Branford.
Okay, we'll start the Board of Selectmen's meeting, special meeting for March 9th, 2021 to order. I remind everybody that this is a Zoom meeting. When speaking, please state your name prior to speaking. Item 1, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from Gary Zielinski, Highway Supervisor, to waive the bid for the purchase of CCTV and jetback work on the Hickory Hill Drainage Capital Project and award the contract to Savvy and Sons in the amount of $13,498 plus the cost of disposal of $195 per ton. In our packet is included with the letter is a map of the area as well as the proposal from the contractor. Gary is on the call. I don't know if we have a motion to move, and if anyone has any, we'll put it on the record if anyone has questions.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve, seconded by Selectman Dunbar. All right, any discussion, questions?
Yes, I had a question, please.
Sure.
I didn't know, I don't know too much about this, but this $195 a ton, are we, is it lots and lots of thousands of pounds we're talking about moving?
No, no, it's not. You're talking mostly solids that are backed out of the basin.
Thank you.
It won't be much more.
Okay.
It's just the limited to the removal of what's in the actual pipe itself. Just this one, so shouldn't be that much. And just so everyone, this is a long-standing part of a long-standing capital project. So there is funds that are been allocated for this actually several years ago, and I think before there was any movement with those dollars in terms of closing out this project, this is the last area that needed to be videoed and inspected to see if there was any upgrades or replacements needed along this line. Any other questions?
This is kind of big.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 2, to consider and if appropriate, approve a request from Hamlet Hernandez, Superintendent, Board of Education, to waive the bid and authorize the administration to negotiate 20-year electricity power purchase agreement directly to the Connecticut Green Bank.
So moved.
Been moved.
Second.
Seconded by Selectman Dunbar. We have Superintendent Hernandez on the call. Just a brief overview of this project.
There it is, honey.
Thank you, Jamie. Jamie, I'm joined this evening with by Michael Sham, who has worked with the town in the past. He's from ECG. Michael reviewed the proposal from Green Bank, and this is part of our solar map program for Pisco Elementary School as well as Murphy Elementary School. So we are doing two things here: entering into a long-term power purchase agreement and also availing ourselves to solar power. at those two schools. So with that, certainly, Michael, if you can give, I believe we have 3 slides, if you just want to go over that, or if the Board of Selectmen prefer, we can just answer any questions and not go into the slide presentation, whatever your preference.
You can just, if I could just get an oversight, not so much just for me, but I think it's important for the residents to know the steps that you're taking right now. I've reached out to a couple of groups in town who are very excited about this, but I don't think it's really well known. So if maybe we just get an overview of what you're actually going to be doing.
Sure, I can take you through some brief slides. If the host could enable my sharing. I'm not sure who the host is, but you have to enable me to share.
Oh, sorry.
I'm sorry.
Hang on 1 second.
Okay.
Great. Just so that you know, as we wait on this, Ray, and for Michael to present his 3 slides, we've been working on this for about the better part of a year. It's been on been an agenda item on numerous agendas, both at the full board as well as the committee level. I see Shirley's on here. We've certainly have had communications, and actually we had hoped to do this a little bit sooner, but things certainly got slowed down when the pandemic hit, and things they didn't grind to a halt, but I would say that they decelerated significantly. So we kind of re-engaged. So that's where we are, but Michael can certainly talk to it.
Thank you.
I have permission, so you should see now it's a PDF that was distributed ahead of the meeting.
Yes.
Yes.
EV systems assessment. All right, so I'll take you briefly through this. This was an update presented at the last Board of Ed meeting last week, I believe, or the week before. And so we have been going back and forth with the Green Bank. They presented a design back in December. We went through a series of analysis. We concluded that the design could be improved somewhat, but bottom line is that the Green Bank is offering a power purchase agreement, the middle paragraph that you see there, at 5.7 cents per kilowatt hour and 6.3 cents per kilowatt hour for Murphy and Tisco, respectively. These are extremely good power purchase agreement rates. We believe that if you went out for an open RFP, that you would not achieve these rates. In addition, with collaboration with the town, the Green Bank procured ZREX in the year 9 auction, which helped support these very good power purchase agreement rates. These at $103 a rec for reference. The current year is probably going to be at $90 a rec. So if you followed a path with an open RFP with a new contractor, you would not achieve this level of renewable energy credit. You would probably not achieve near this power purchase agreement rate. This is a fixed rate for 20 years, and it's a very, very potentially powerful arrangement with the Green Bank. This has a lot of content on it, and I distributed this.
Excuse me.
Yeah,
Mike, your screen's not moving. It's still on the title page.
Oh, okay.
For what we could see. At least Mike.
Let me stop the sharing and I'll reshare. I changed the screen. It was one that may have affected it. Okay, can you see the second page now that says updates?
Yes.
It's on updates right now.
Sorry about that. So what I just went through was basically the second paragraph. The Green Bank provided a design in December. We did a series of analysis, concluded that the design could probably be improved upon by using more roof area than what they had laid out. So what we are willing to do is continue to support you, to represent you, and work with the Green Bank if this is the path you choose and you elect to go forward. Do you see this is slide 3 now?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so there's a lot on this, and we distributed this ahead of the call. But basically, this summarizes the current design layout, the use of the two roof surfaces. The left one is at Murphy, the right one is at Tisco, I believe. What's interesting is that while the schools are architecturally identical, they're rotated more than 90 degrees with respect to south, and so they have slightly different solar performance. As part of the design, just to give you the overview of how we approach this, what you see across the top row of graphs are the historical energy use for the last 3 years. The green line, if you can see my cursor moving, is 2020. And so you see there was an anomaly due to COVID restriction use of the buildings. The more typical historical baseline is this group of curves that you see in all the slides. It's important that you don't over-design these systems and produce more energy than you're going to use. In general, over the course of the year, these lower two slides or charts here show the net metering process that on any given day, such as a very sunny Saturday afternoon when schools are not open, you're going to produce more energy than you consume in the school. You export that through net metering, you get credit for that, and that's basically the blue credits that you get. So what you can expect going forward with these systems in place is that you will pay a utility bill January, February, March, and April, and then you will receive a credit for solar energy produced for the balance of the year. You'll pay a small utility bill, which is basically the fixed fees and maybe some demand charges, but you can expect that your utility bills will drop quite a bit. The overall savings that you can expect, if you can see slide 4 now,
Yes.
will range from $7,000 per year for Tisco in year 1 and $9,000 per year for Murphy, which represents about a 30% savings, 25 to 30% savings in year 1. Those savings, because the power purchase agreement is fixed for 20 years, will escalate over the course of the 20-year contract. For Tisco, at the end of the 20 years, you will have saved $212,000, and for Murphy, you have saved $249,000. That's assuming that these power purchase agreement rates do not change. I'm hopeful that we can nudge them down a little bit through interactions with the Green Bank, but these are now fairly well assured. The next steps that you would expect to take, if you can see slide 5 now.
Yes.
In 2020, there was quite a bit of interaction with the Green Bank. They did some preliminary assessments. They presented to the Board of Ed in March of 2020. They continued with design. They have partners outside that are doing this analysis work for them. They procured the renewable energy credits during 2020, which are still in place now. Beginning in 2021, we began supporting you, did a review in December and January of what they had done. We agree with the conclusions they've reached, and having the ZRECs in place and having a contractor in place that will do, I think they're contracted to do 16 different towns through the Green Bank. You get volume discounts through their ability to purchase large amounts of equipment rather than one by one. So our recommendation is to stay with the Green Bank, to leverage what they have done so far, and that will likely put you operational sometime in late summer of this year, potentially.
Imagine that.
They are asking for an agreement in place by the 24th of March, but that's not a hard and fast date. That's an approximate date. They'd like to get the construction and the materials ordered moving to address some of the lead time. The alternate path that we had assessed was an open RFP process that would potentially put you operational by the end of 2021 and would require either acquiring the RECs from the Green Bank or rebidding in the year 10 off. So our overall recommendation is stay on the path with the Green Bank and take the rates that they're offering. Questions?
Okay. Now, thanks, Mike. And just to quickly summarize, I guess Connecticut Green Bank is a quasi-public agency that has a program called the Solar MAP program that's opened up to municipalities. They went out through a competitive process, secured some power purchase agreements for the projects that they have identified that they felt were feasible projects. This is a couple schools here in town. They, through that competitive process and their analysis, there was a net savings year one, fixed costs for the power over 20 years. And then the superintendent and his staff engaged ECG as an outside consultant to review the efforts that Connecticut Green Bank had went through to essentially validate those efforts. And you're coming back and supporting what they found. You feel is the town will benefit in terms of not obviously from the environmental benefits, but there's financial benefit to the board and ultimately the taxpayer by entering into this arrangement. That sum it up?
That does well. One other possible path that you could follow as well along educational lines is that if you elect to pursue this path and you put on-site photovoltaic generation, this makes a very nice teaching point as well. You could put a dashboard in the lobby. It says how much energy you're producing that day. Get the students engaged in the process. That should be a simple adder. I don't know that they propose that, but it's something to think about that benefits educationally as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And
just for point of information, ECG, as stated, has worked with the town in the past. They were the town's owner's rep when we did the Honeywell project. So we have we've worked with this group before in terms of, and that's been through our measure and verification process has been a successful project for the town in terms of energy and cost savings.
Right, and that's the role we're playing here as well as an owner's rep.
Yeah.
So we're not advocating anything in particular. We're evaluating and recommending based on our findings.
Right. Thank you. Any other questions?
No, I just want to thank the superintendent, Mike, for coming here this evening and making this presentation. I think it was very informative and I much appreciate it.
You're most welcome, Ray.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody for the work on this. We have a motion to been moved and seconded. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, passed unanimously. Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you,
Michael.
Evening all.
Good night, Michael.
Item 3, to consider and if appropriate approve a recommendation from the Volunteer Fire Pension Committee to reduce the number of qualifying points for the volunteer incentive program from 100 to 75 for the calendar year 2020. I see we have Chief Tom Mahoney as well as our finance director who works on the pension committee, Jim Finch. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I can kick it off, and I'll let the chief fill in some of the details. I don't know if Tim Murray is on the call. I was anticipating being joined by Commissioner Clem, but she was going to come up to my office, but I don't see her. So just to recap, the town of Branford is a combination fire department. We have career staff and we have volunteers. And for the volunteers, we have basically two programs. We have a stipend program, and then we also have, you can get pension credits. And those credits are based on activity. So you need to meet a certain number of calls. a certain number of drills, town and company drills, etc. And when a volunteer reaches 100 qualifying points in the various buckets, then they actually receive a stipend for the year. When we met at the last volunteer pension committee last week, the number of qualifying volunteers was down significantly. Normally, the last couple of years, we've ranged from low 40s to high 30s in terms of volunteers that would qualify. This year, based on the current requirements, it was about 22. So you can see that's roughly about about a third down. So with only 2/3 qualifying. So members of the committee, along with the chief and the chief of the volunteers and the chairman of the committee, were essentially lamenting the fact that fewer folks are participating, and we recognize that a lot of this was related to the COVID pandemic, and the members unanimously felt that we should try to provide some kind of relief by relaxing the restrictions so as to have more volunteers basically qualify. And again, they felt it was important to keep those members engaged and for lack of a better word, esprit de corps. When we do change the qualifying requirements, we basically pick up another 12 participants who would qualify. So we would go from approximately 22 to 34, which is pretty close to what we've historically done, by being in the high 30s, low 40s. The plan, when the plan gets amended, we just don't do that on our own. We've gone to the Board of Selectmen to ask them to make amendments to the plan over the years, and we felt that in an effort to do this transparently and with a level of accountability, that if we were going to make a change or an exception for calendar year 2020, that this should be something that should be acted on by the Board of Selectmen. So that's why we're here tonight, asking you to consider modifying the requirements for calendar year 2020 to allow for 75 qualifying points as opposed to 100.
Can I ask the chief a question, Jane?
Go ahead, sir.
Chief, it just goes to everybody. Isn't this basically, I'll call it, the COVID adjustment, because a lot of volunteers weren't able to drill because of not being able to participate? I think you put safety measures in place. So this is really just taking care of the people that we prevented from having some of these drills, and didn't we also stop, some people, if not needed, going to a lot of extra calls? I mean, this is really just taking care of people that we kind of told not to go to some things and not to do some drills. That was the understanding I got from some people. I mean, I'm all for that, but am I basically on board with that?
Yes, Chief Tom Mahoney. Yeah, this is that's 100% correct, Ray, and I appreciate you bringing it up. As everybody knows, the volunteer workforce is really a huge component that makes up the entire workforce of the Branford Fire Department. We put these restrictions in place for their safety, and through no fault of their own. So we prevented them from even meeting the training requirements that they would normally have to meet. We also prevented them from going on medical calls, with the exception of certain, cardiac arrest or high-level emergency calls. So it was through the restrictions that were placed upon them that they weren't able to meet it, not through any lack of participation. And so we thought it was a fair way to look at those that did respond, what level of response they were able to make, and then kind of compare it. And we thought that reducing it by 25% was entirely reasonable considering the situation with COVID.
Thank you, Chief. I'll move it.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, abstentions, passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pass unanimously. Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Branford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BranfordTV.org.